Well, can you believe it? It's Thanksgiving week here on the Rick Corey Sports Special, and those guys right there, the Bixby Spartans, are practicing on Thanksgiving. I know it might sound funny, but that's every high school team's goal. After a win, and I mean a big one, 59-14, over a Norman North team that can be very dangerous. You and I talked about it last week, but you got on them pretty early. What were you doing so well early in that game, Coach?
Well, we executed in all three phases of the game. I was proud of the guys the way we came out. We got the ball and executed a really good drive all the way down and scored. Overcame a holding penalty and did some really good things. And then came out and the defense created three takeaways there in the first quarter. We weren't able to capitalize on all three, but we were able to get let's see, we were able to get 10 points out of the three turnovers, which was big, and stop their momentum. We ran a fake punt during the game and executed it well. And so, really, a lot of the things that we had practiced all week, the kids did a really nice job at executing. I thought our kids played hard.
Yeah, I want to move on to the rest of the stuff, but the fake punt, you're doing that strategically. I get it. You obviously saw something you thought you could take advantage of. Do you also do that sometimes just to put it on film so the other guy knows they have to look at that?
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny. I used to coach punt team when we first got here, and when we were really struggling, we always had a quarterback who was our punter, and I would say we were about 50% of actually punting. The rest of the time, we would run some sort of, I don't even know if you call it a fake, when we'd use punt formation to execute on fourth down. And so I always told myself, because we were effective on it, that as we became better, we would still utilize that and be aggressive in the kicking game. And I don't know that we've been as aggressive, certainly, as we were when our backs were against the wall in every game. But that's something that I think is important to continue to work and to continue to be aggressive in.
Explain why, if you're on the other side of that is so doggone stressful. I mean, we think of fourth down fake punts as being meh successful, but if you're a defensive coordinator, the guys I know, they just absolutely hated it, and the special teams coordinators hated it too.
Yeah, without a doubt, and I think your success rate on fourth down, of course, depending on the down and distance, is actually higher than you think on fake punts, and so that's something that we consider as well. But then also, when the opposing team's preparing all week for something maybe that's a little unorthodox in special teams, I think it stresses them just a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. You had stars and players of the game. I saw those tweeted afterwards. I'm going to let you do it. Tell me who your players of the game were.
Well, I thought we had a lot of guys play really well. Carson Kirby, I think, threw maybe for five touchdowns.
Mhm.
Braden Presley had a really big game in all three phases of the game. He had some big returns. He had an interception. He had several pass breakups. He had a couple of rushes, a couple of receptions. So he had a good game as well. And then some of our guys maybe that aren't common names. Our nose guard Hector Garcia, I feel like played his best game. And so some of those guys, some of those program guys that maybe are underclassmen that are really coming on, playing some of their best ball, or did play some of their best ball the other night. We got to continue to build on that.
Yeah, mid first drive, you mentioned 12 plays, 78 yards, ends with a touchdown pass. And as you mentioned, Kirby with five touchdown passes. You obviously saw something you could take advantage of. Was there anything specific that you guys were really successful with? The seam balls, short balls, long balls?
No, I think we did have some nice seam balls and play action, but I thought we also protected and ran the ball well. So a good night by our offensive line, and that allowed our skill guys to really do their thing, and allowed Carson to get the ball to our playmakers.
One of my bigger questions is, having seen Owen Eshelman and knowing that the quarterback there at Norman North, that he's a dangerous guy, just the way the kid never stops playing football. How in the world did you hold him to 14? What'd you do so well defensively?
Well, number one, we created quite a few turnovers, and that's big, obviously, to not let him get going. And of course, he had his. He's a very talented Division I quarterback. He pulled several balls down and was able to scramble for 12 or 15 yards on third and longs, and that's what he does. But by not giving up the big play, just rallying up, tackling him, and then moving on to the next set of downs, I think was big for us. I got to give it to Coach Flowers, our defense coordinator. I thought he did a really nice job of giving Mason James, their talented wide receiver, who's got offers from everybody in the country, a lot of different looks and things to try to handle him. And maybe that helped not get him going. And so anytime a team's so talented as Norman North and is on a hot streak the way they are, you got to really work hard to take away a couple of those big time playmakers that they have.
But to beat them like that, to beat them 59-14, you guys are obviously really playing at a peak. Did you feel that happening during the week last week? We talked about, the bye week and what you were trying to do to peak. You certainly seemed to look like you did that.
Well, I think we were extremely nervous, having come off of a Week 10 upset or a Week 10 loss for guys and having 2 weeks to marinate on that. And then also the finality of the playoffs. You don't get redos or you don't get AOs or mulligans or anything like that when you're talking about playoffs. And I could kind of feel that certainly with our coaching staff because most of our guys have been there, but then our kids as well. When we were doing practice and walkthroughs and team meetings, I felt a focus maybe that we hadn't felt before this season, and with our bunch being a somewhat younger bunch, to me that was a good thing to see.
I would imagine. And then when you see that and then they play like that, I have to think that locker room's an interesting place. So let me guess. Not a lot of overly celebrations, a lot more focus and eyes on you.
Well, yeah, but I think everyone was so nervous and understanding that playoff wins hit differently and are special. Our kids were excited in the locker room after the game, and they did
Good,
celebrate,
good.
and as they should. And expectations are high, but I think it's important. Even though expectations are high and we expect to play at a high level all the time to celebrate those wins and enjoy those wins because winning is difficult. And so for us to be able to go out and win convincingly in a playoff game after 2 weeks off and the stress that we put on our high school kids, they deserve or they've earned, I should say, the right to go in that locker room and put the music on and dance and celebrate and have some fun.
Oh,
But
there's no question about that. But I know a lot of times teams that are focused like that, they're so businesslike, they'll just go in there, sit, look at you and say, okay, what's next?
yeah, yeah. And Saturday morning, that was the vibe we got when we came in and watched the film and lifted weights and we're on to Edmond Memorial now.
All right. So remember, we're talking to Loren Montgomery. He's the head football coach at Bixby. We'll talk about that Edmond Memorial game because they've got a quarterback now. I mean, that kid's pretty special, and it's a unique in where it's being played. And of course, we're talking about the semifinals. Before we do that, I want to remind you this is sponsored by Sunrise Cafe, and I got to read this right out the phone because I got the weekly specials here. And the weekly special for lunch is a chicken, oh no, I'm sorry, breakfast, a chicken bacon lime ranch skillet. I want to read it so I can get it all right. So they do their seasoned breakfast potatoes, and I think he puts magic on there. I don't know what they are because it's just better than everybody else's. And then grilled chicken breast, and then smoked bacon, and then cheddar, and then Monterey Jack cheese, and then 2 eggs, any way you like on top. And all that is grilled with chili lime ranch dressing, and you get toast and or biscuits and gravy. And I mean, and it's 8.99 for goodness sake. That's all week this week at Sunrise Cafe at 101st and Sheridan. And that just sounds beyond delicious. And you're going to have a lot of turkey and other stuff later this week. This sounds really good. And then for lunch, it's a Havarti chicken sandwich basket. Now, Havarti, of course, is a cheese. What they do is take the fried chicken breast and they top it with Havarti, which melts so wonderfully. And they serve it on a hamburger bun with chili lime dressing as well, lettuce and potato. And then these got these thick cut potatoes they do themselves. And they put this magic fry sauce on there. Again, 8.99. That's this week, 101st and Sheridan at Sunrise Cafe. And I, I'm trying to talk and have my mouth watered at the same time because I want that chicken bacon ranch thing right now. Also, we have a ribbon cutting to talk about. We'll get to that too. Let's start though with this Edmond Memorial team. You talk about hot. They go to just polish off Norman, who we understand is really good. And you know that because you were upset by them a couple of weeks ago. What is Edmond Memorial, other than that quarterback, and he's special, doing so well right now?
They're super physical. Their offensive and defensive lines collectively, I think, might be the best that we've seen all year. They've got, we saw them earlier in the summer in team camp, actually. They come to our team camp And they play a four-man front, and their four defensive linemen are as four good of a guys up
Yeah.
front as we've seen. They're physical, they're fast, they're long guys, 6'2", 6'3", nearly all of them, and they run well. And then offensively, they load the box up. They use a lot of 12 personnel. Their five offensive linemen are excellent, and then they use a plethora of big physical tight ends that come in, and they try to run zone and duo schemes, and
Hmm.
they can play action you, and then their quarterback can run again. It's another Division I quarterback. Their quarterback's committed to Kansas, and
Hmm.
another week, and just like seems like every week this year in 6A1 that you have to defend a Division I quarterback.
Yeah, and this kid, to me, I mean, watching him, he's pretty unflappable. And of course, they beat Union in the last game of the regular season, and I saw a lot of this guy. And he's tall. He's got a little Tom Brady in him. He's got that tall, and he can move, but he throws a good deep ball. I just think he's really a terrific player. You mentioned some other great guys around him, and you're going to play in Claremore on Saturday night at 7. Not that it matters because you go on road trips anyway. Anything different about playing at a place you've never been?
Well, this team hasn't played in Claremore, but I think probably the last time we played in Claremore might have been 2015. And
Yeah.
so, most of our coaches that are here were still here in 2015. In fact, a couple of them were actually players then when we went there. And so, it's a nice venue. It's small, which I like. That'll mean it's a great atmosphere. And I know Coach Hurt, Brian Frazier, their superintendent, will do an excellent job of creating a great game day atmosphere. And, it really doesn't matter, Rick, when you get to this point. I think fans like to, you know, hash things out and complain. And it every year, you see the comments and things like that. And I think people maybe don't understand sometimes that it's an even number year. If it's East and West team, it'll be played on the East. And then also sites have to be willing to host. And, I know they reached out to Broken Arrow and Union, and for various reasons, Thanksgiving weekend, it's hard to get people to work. I don't think the schools, they might be reimbursed, but it's not lucrative for the schools. So really, there's not a ton of benefit for some of those venues hosting, and so it doesn't matter to us. We would meet in the Stroud Tanger Mall parking lot and play. We're just thankful and grateful to have this opportunity to practice on Thanksgiving and play this weekend.
I think you just hit an idea. Let's you and I get behind a drive to build a stadium there in Stroud, and then we'll get rid of this nonsense east west. We'll just build maybe a couple. There's enough room right there, right? We'll build
Right,
a couple
for
of
sure.
stadiums. We'll just play. We'll play playoff games there, and Stroud can play there if they want to. I want before I leave that topic. I've been traveling for a lot of years with football players, with college football teams, and there are coaches who used to do walkthroughs, and they don't do that anymore. And some of them used to say, "I want them to see the stadium." Especially if you're somewhere big. You're at Ohio State, you don't want guys to have big eyes on Saturday, blah, blah, blah. It's different, I know, in high school, but do you think it's important for the kids to see the venue or do they care?
No, I don't. To me, that's not real important. We'll see it in pregame when we go out there and go through our warm up. And, our kids, especially the last couple of years now that we've been up in 6A1, and we've played some places that we've never played before. This year I know Deer Creek's a place that we had never been. And, last year we had several, meaning Norman and
Hmm.
Moore and some of those places. And so we'll go get acclimated in our pregame routine, and we would expect our kids just to come out and be business as usual on a Friday night.
Yeah, I know they don't care. I mean, it's a field, right? It's 53
Right.
in the third, it's 100, 10-yard end zones. Here we go. Last I looked, we're still playing American football. That's the way that works. Now, you guys had a nice ribbon cutting. I saw some great pictures, and you had talked to me about your facility and that you were still getting some things done. I see some more stuff in your office back there now. So I'm assuming you guys are really close to complete now.
We're getting close. They're putting the finishing touches on. I know in the locker room that we have some LED lighting. We have a few more graphics that are set to go up. They're touching some paint up in some of the offices, like mine right here. There are still some graphics to put up, and we just got stadium seating in our meeting rooms upstairs, and so that's nice. The position groups got to use those Saturday morning for film and are pretty excited about those. And And so anyway, we've been getting acclimated as the season goes on. I think the official ribbon cutting was probably just a deadline date, really, to put a little pressure on all the loose ends and everything like that. But we still have a few things, but man, we're operational, and we're super thankful to be in this state of the art facility. We said all along we wanted to build the best locker room and football facility in the state of Oklahoma, and we've got that, and I think probably we've also got the best one in the United States. So we've got something that our kids, our community, our coaching staff can all be really proud of.
It's got to just make you proud when you sit and look at all that.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. A lot of people put a lot of hard work, into this facility, and I think you and I have probably talked about it. Football, athletics, extracurricular activities are one of the last things where we can teach kids work ethic, discipline, integrity, being selfless, being consistent. And I think our community recognizes that our program teaches and coaches those things, and that sometimes extracurricular activities are the hook that keep kids engaged in school, keep kids in school, keep kids functioning in a high level in school. And that's why Bixby pours into that.
Life lessons. There's no doubt about that. All right. Well, congratulations on all that stuff. And the last thing, I know it's important because I mean, I'm going to ask a question that's going to sound obvious. I'm going to ask, why is it important to practice on Thanksgiving? We know that if you don't, you're not in the playoffs. So, I mean, I get that. But there is a feeling to that. There's something about going out there that day. Can you put a pin in it?
I don't know if you can, but I'll tell you this: we're extremely grateful. This will be our 11th
Yep.
consecutive year to get to practice on Thanksgiving, and even the years when it was on a bye week, we still made sure we came up and practiced at 8 o'clock on Thanksgiving morning. And so, it means that you're making a run in the playoffs, and you've had a pretty successful season. It means that alumni is going to be out. We invite our alumni, and this year will even be a little cooler because when we're finished, we're going to give the alumni a tour of the facility, and so we're excited about that. A lot of former guys are back in town. Parents, family are in town and come out and get to watch you practice. And then when you're finished practicing at 9:30 or whatever, you get to go enjoy your family, eat some turkey and dressing, and watch football all day. And so just a wonderful day, and an opportunity that we love to enjoy here in Bixby.
I asked you this on the radio many years ago when you and I were visiting. So tell people what Loren Montgomery really digs into on Thanksgiving.
Well, my favorite thing is the dressing, the turkey and dressing, but
Yep.
certainly the dressing, and that's something that, number one, you don't get all the time because not everywhere just has dressing. Number two, you wouldn't want to eat it all the time, or you wouldn't be very fit. And then also number three, my mom, she does my grandma's recipe, who's no longer with us, but it is just like what my grandma used to do. And so we look forward to that. And then, for me, I don't eat a lot of sweets, but I will eat a piece of pecan pie on Thanksgiving. I really enjoy that.
Outstanding. That's fun. Well, and congratulations to your guys too from Tulsa. Brody played almost the entire game. I think he played the whole game at right guard. And then Braylon had a heck of a kickoff return that he was able to break. So you got your Bixby guys out playing. It's not just there. Those just happen to be the guys I see, but I had your guys playing all over the place on the weekend too.
Yeah, it was great. Those guys did well. And then we've got four guys down at Central Oklahoma, and they won their first round playoff game against Ouachita Baptist. The Puckett boys, you got Jack and Hank, Noah West, and then Connor Kirby are all down there at Central Oklahoma. And so they'll be traveling to Ferris State this next weekend. So they're also practicing on Thanksgiving.
Outstanding. Well, Coach, have a good week. Enjoyed that Thanksgiving meal out there in that practice.
Hey, thanks, Rick.